Imagine a historical event so catastrophic, so vast in its human cost, that its details remain largely absent from global memory. For decades, the true scale of the atrocities in the Congo Free State was a buried horror, a forgotten genocide. This is the story of King Leopold II of Belgium, a man who, in his insatiable quest for wealth, orchestrated a reign of terror that systematically decimated a population. This documentary will unearth the chilling reality of how an estimated 10 million lives were lost, a silent holocaust demanding our full attention, not just as history, but as a crucial lesson for humanity. The late 19th century was the era of new imperialism, a fervent scramble for Africa where European powers carved up a continent with little regard for its inhabitants. Nations vied for resources, strategic advantage, and colonial prestige. Leopold II, a monarch largely seen as ineffectual at home, yearned for a personal empire. He studied maps, read accounts of explorers, and saw an opportunity in the vast, largely uncharted heart of Africa, the Congo Basin. But unlike other nations, Leopold intended to claim it not for Belgium but for himself. To gain international legitimacy for his audacious plan, Leopold created a brilliant deception. He established the International African Association and later the International Association of the Congo, presenting them to the world as humanitarian and scientific endeavors aimed at abolishing slavery and opening Africa to trade and Christianization. He secured the support of powerful figures like Henry Morton Stanley, the famed explorer, who did Leopold's bidding, signing fraudulent treaties with local chiefs. At the Berlin Conference, with skillful diplomacy and cunning manipulation, Leopold convinced the great powers to recognize his claim to the Congo Free State as his personal property, not a Belgian colony. It was a diplomatic coup, but one built on a foundation of lies. With his private kingdom secured, Leopold's true agenda unfolded. The initial focus was ivory, a highly prized commodity, but the global rubber boom of the 1890s, fueled by the burgeoning automotive and industrial sectors, shifted his attention to the Congo's vast wild rubber vines. This was the fuel for his immense fortune. To extract these resources, Leopold created the Force Publique, a brutal private army commanded by European officers, but largely comprised of abducted Congolese, often from distant tribes or mercenaries. Their methods were designed for maximum output through sheer terror. Villages were given impossible rubber quotas. Failure to meet these quotas meant unimaginable consequences. The infamous red rubber system became the cornerstone of Leopold's terror. To ensure soldiers weren't wasting bullets hunting animals or on themselves, they were required to bring back the severed hands of their victims as proof of a kill. When quotas weren't met, or even if they were, hands were often taken from men, women, and even children. The atrocities were systemic. Villages burned, crops destroyed, and women and children held hostage in hostage houses to force men to work. Famine, disease, and direct violence combined to decimate the population. While precise figures are elusive due to lack of records and the sheer scale, historians widely agree that the population of the Congo Free State plummeted by approximately 10 million people during Leopold's rule, a staggering loss of life representing perhaps half of the entire population. Despite Leopold's attempts to control information, the horrifying truth began to leak out. Early voices of conscience emerged. George Washington Williams, an African-American historian and former soldier, traveled to the Congo and sent an impassioned open letter to Leopold in 1890, detailing the abuses. Missionaries, initially complicit or silent, started to send disturbing reports home, but the most impactful challenge came from an unlikely source, Edmund Dane Morel, a British shipping clerk. Morel noticed that ships returning from the Congo were laden with immense wealth, but those going to the Congo carried only arms and ammunition, with no goods for legitimate trade. He realized this wasn't commerce, it was theft, maintained by terror. Morel dedicated his life to exposing Leopold, founding the West African Mail newspaper and launching the Congo Reform Association, CRA, in 1904. He partnered with Roger Casement, a British diplomat and humanitarian, who after an official investigation, published the damning Casement Report in 1904. This report, filled with first-hand accounts of atrocities, was irrefutable. Figures like Mark Twain, Joseph Conrad, whose novel Heart of Darkness was inspired by his Congo experiences, and Arthur Conan Doyle joined the cause. The CRA's relentless campaign, fueled by Morel's investigative journalism and Casement's undeniable evidence, created an unprecedented international human rights movement. Leopold fought back with propaganda and bribery, but the tide had turned. Under immense international pressure, Leopold II could no longer maintain his facade. In 1908, he was forced to sell the Congo Free State to the Belgian government, which renamed it the Belgian Congo. Before handing it over, Leopold famously ordered the destruction of nearly all Free State archives, burning documents for over a week in an attempt to erase his crimes from history. While direct mutilation decreased,
The transition to Belgian rule did not immediately end the exploitation. The colonial system continued, albeit with different mechanisms, perpetuating cycles of poverty and resource extraction. The immense wealth Leopold amassed, much of it still visible in Belgium's opulent buildings and infrastructure, stands in stark contrast to the ravaged land he left behind. The legacy of Leopold's Congo endures in the Democratic Republic of Congo today, in its political instability, its ongoing struggles for human rights, and the continued exploitation of its vast mineral wealth. This forgotten genocide is a stark reminder of the long shadow cast by colonialism and unchecked power. It teaches us about the fragility of human rights, the devastating consequences of greed, and the critical importance of speaking truth to power. By bringing this history into the light, we ensure that the millions who suffered and died are remembered, and that their story serves as a perpetual warning, urging us to recognize, resist, and prevent such horrors from ever being forgotten again.